gang, it's Heather, and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk about PR. Today, I want to talk about media targeting and why you can't just have a PR campaign that focuses on those top tier media, and why you wouldn't want to even if you could. And the answer actually goes back to a phenomena that's been observed since the very beginning of media ratings, back in the 1950s, that I believe is a huge part of the misconceptions people have about media targeting. So taking a step back, whenever we put together a media program, we always want to keep top of mind our target customer and the problem we solve for them. And from there, we work backwards to say, where is that target customer going in order to solve that problem? And that's where this fallacy comes into play. It's called illusory bias. And it means that we always misconceive the level of activity that we're doing. And we also vastly misconceive that our customers are at a much higher level place than they actually are. This is why in ratings, whenever you look at the radio ratings, the news talk affiliate, NPR affiliate, almost always shows up at the very top of the ratings, even though you don't drive down the street and hear it blasting from people's cars, and people don't take off work on a Friday to go to the news talk affiliate festival party thing. It's because we want to be at that higher level. We want to assume other people are at that higher level. And it's also why whenever we do this work with clients, without exception, if somebody is targeting an entrepreneur or a business person, they're like, oh, they're in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fast Company. Or if they're targeting a woman, they say, oh, they're reading Oprah magazine and they're watching the Ellen DeGeneres show start to finish. Where if you actually start talking to people, you realize very, very few people are actually doing that. In fact, it's ironic because a lot of times the executives that will come and say, we're targeting executives, we need to be in these places. And you say, okay, what section? Who's the reporter you like there the most? And they're like, I don't read those I haven't picked up the New York Times since I was in college, or since it got delivered to my hotel room a couple weeks ago, and I kind of flipped through it for a second, right? So even though it doesn't prove to be true that those people are there, people assume that they are, and then it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because everybody's fighting for placement in those publications, when in actuality, your target customer is probably going other places to look for solutions to those problems, and those other places probably don't have nearly the bloodbath that getting into some of those high-level things do. So let's talk about why you wouldn't want to only be in those publications, even if you could. So yes, it feels awesome for you to share out that New York Times hit. It feels great for you to put that masthead on your website. There's like a reputation that happens there. But as far as reaching new people, as far as expanding your reach, it's the smaller opportunities that have the greater impact. I can tell you, having seen the results from PR campaigns over the past 20 years, that you have those big ones at the top, right? Like, hey, we got New York Times this week or this month, and we also got in these 15 other publications. It's the 15 publications that's actually driving people, that's driving the leads, that's driving the web traffic. That is where the movement is happening. So in order to have those dual priorities, in order to both say, yes, we want reputation, but we want to drive the needle. If you want to drive the needle and you want to drive the results, you wouldn't want to only be in those big publications, because the question is, of the millions of eyeballs they get per month, how many are actually seeing the article? How many are there ready to, take action and learn something new? So I had an example last year where we placed a client in the Associated Press. It was a dream hit. It was actually the kind of dream hit where I was like, how did this get past the editors? Because they didn't even talk to somebody else, a competitor in the space. They didn't even have that naysayer who's there kind of, poking a little bit of a hole in it, or putting that little editorial skepticism in there. We placed them at the same time on a podcast that was so small that the CEO actually questioned whether it was worth his time, and we had a conversation about that, and we decided that we were going to call it kind of a practice podcast or a test podcast, right? And their goal was to get hot sales leads. I can tell you that the Associated Press article that ran in north of 150 million impressions in every single print publication across the country and online affiliates did not get any sales leads. It got them a lot of thumbs ups and, hey, nice to see you, when they shared it on social media, but most of that was driven by the company actually sharing it and getting those thumbs up and the great to see yous. Off of that one podcast that we questioned whether it was big enough to be on at all, they got 3 hot sales leads, 2 of which closed within the month after the podcast aired, to the tune of, I think, $230,000 in the first year of revenue. And the third one was a hot lead, still a hot lead a couple months later, and they highly thought that one was gonna turn over. And I can tell you, I've seen that happen time and time again. We had a client that we placed on the front page of the New York Times food section. Awesome hit. This was a while ago. Probably actually, my goodness, I don't want to say how long ago it was now. It drove 33 signups on the website as a result of being on the front page. And again, glorious article. But it comes down to how ready to take action is a person when they hear your message. How well do you understand the action you want to take and the opportunities in that media? So when you sit down to put together your media targeting program, I hope that this helps you understand why you can't just say, let's only go after the top targets. It just doesn't work that way. And you wouldn't want it to, honestly, even if you could. So next time you're thinking about your target customer, and the best way to do this is actually to ask them, sit down in front of a computer and spend some time acting as if you were them. Where would you end up if you were honestly trying to solve the problem that you solve for people? And understand that it's really those smaller opportunities that drive the needle and that have people hearing your message at a point when they're really highly engaged and ready to take action. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.